Good morning, witches. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're coming from. It is I, and I'm here with my cup of coffee with oat milk and cinnamon. I encourage you to get a beverage and sit down and get ready to take notes. This one's going to be a bit of a long one. So, today we are going over what are offerings. Offerings are just what they sound like. Usually we give offerings as a kind of a gesture of goodwill, as a way to introduce ourselves to the spirits or entities that we would like to work with. And in the beginning, there are usually no strings attached. Kind of think of this as a new neighbor has moved into your neighborhood and you take them a casserole or something nice over to their house and introduce yourself. It's a bit of the same situation, at least in the beginning. What you'll see in movies is that they do a whole blood sacrifice kind of an offering in order to get something from someone else. And that may indeed be the fact once we have already made a deep, deep bond with said entity or deity, for example. But in the beginning, we are not making offerings in order to get something from someone. It's just kind of rude, it could be dangerous, and really you don't want to make that part of your personality in an energetic space like that. I wouldn't suggest it. So, in the beginning, offerings are no strings attached, and a few good examples of some entities you can offer to are as follows. Offerings are generally given to entities that you already wish to work with. So whatever you're feeling called towards, I would say absolutely listen to your intuition about that, with some exceptions, which we will go over later. So to start with, some good examples are your genius loci, which is the spirit of place, your neighborhood spirits, your house spirits, the big tree in your backyard, the guardian or gatekeeper of your local cemetery is a really great place to start. They are generally pretty easygoing and would like to get to know you as much as you would like to get to know them if you're living in the same area. You could also give offerings as a way to honor your past loved ones. I'm sure your great-grandparents would love to hear from you. This comes with the benefit of knowing what those people enjoyed in life, which usually doesn't change much between here in a physical incarnation and passing over. So that could be a really good place to start, as well as you are probably connected enough to your close relatives that have passed on or your close friends that have passed on to know what they sound like, and getting that internal voice tuned to listening to your intuition and listening to outside influences is really going to be very important, especially later on, but it's a good thing to get that started as soon as you possibly can. But some things should be definitely avoided. Be careful, listen to your gut instinct, try and figure out what the general vibe is before making any kind of moves. And I would suggest going to watch the previous video on energy discernment for a little bit of how to that kind of picking up on things that you can't see. So, what should you offer? The same answer to that is that it depends. I've seen all manner of things offered to different entities, different beings, and it really is an individual choice. While there's some common offerings such as a bowl of water or a bowl of milk, maybe a dumb supper kind of situation where you're offering food or pieces of what you've cooked, especially to the spirits of the dead, I would go look up some offering ideas. I would look up some altar ideas, probably on Pinterest. Even if you're not going to recreate that exact thing, it can be really fun to look at and really inspiring to look at those things. Start small. Consistency is key. Consistency, I would say, matters more than the actual offering that you're giving. And I'm sitting here while my altars have been somewhat untouched for longer than I'm comfortable admitting, and so this is very much a do as I say, not as I do situation. Set alarms on your phone if you have to, but make sure you're showing up at the same place if it is one of those kind of offerings. If you have constructed an altar, and we'll get into that in just a minute, but make sure that you're showing up consistently and offering to the same being. You want to build a relationship. This is just as difficult and just as intensive as building a relationship with a human person, because you need to be able to show up and present yourself in a way that means that you actually value this relationship and that you actually are going to put in the work that it takes to have a relationship, even if it's with a non-physical being. Offering suggestions. Offerings don't need to be food or water, and many practitioners, including myself, do a lot of really varied and imaginative things as offerings, especially as time goes on and you want to get creative with it, such as music, smoke, dance, or ritualistic act, such as volunteering with a certain cause that corresponds to maybe the god or goddess or deity that you're working with. Milk, bread, candles, flowers, fresh or dry, different herbs and crystals or stones. Do your research. We're going to have a basic correspondences video up here soon, but definitely look into correspondences for whatever entity that you're planning on working with. There can be some situations where an offering just isn't appropriate, such as, for example, if you're going to make an offering to the spirits of the wild and you take salt out and pour salt into the earth. Salt is really bad for the ground and for the soil, so it wouldn't necessarily be taken as a very good offering, especially if you're trying to get to know the local ecosystem and etc. So when you're doing your research and say this is for a deity, look up what they historically have been offered. There are plenty of places that you can learn what has historically been offered to certain deities and do your best to recreate that, at least when you're learning, until you are able to have a conversation and have a communication with them and get to know what they want more personally from you. A subsection of this is libations. The English version comes from the Latin word meaning to pour. So libations are liquid offerings that are poured straight onto the ground. And I will add that chthonic deities do appreciate things being poured directly onto the earth, as opposed to the deities that reside historically, mythos-wise above the earth, which that can be more like smoke offerings or burning offerings or things that rise up and dissipate into the air. So word on that. Libations are liquid offerings that are poured straight on the ground, often as an offering to the spirits of the locality and to the spirits or to the dead. Libations are most commonly water or alcohol, usually wine, and sometimes olive oil, milk, tea. It can be anything, really. I have seen people make herbal teas specifically for different workings, rose water, stuff like that, and add it into their rituals. Libations, like any other ancient ritualistic thing, have a huge and expansive history, being used in ancient Egypt, Sumer, Greece, Rome, as well as in India and South America. To this day, cultures around the world have different traditions of pouring offerings in honor of the gods, saints, and their beloved dead. Do you need an altar to make offerings? Short answer, no. Slightly longer answer, maybe. If you intend to show up at the same place at the same time, say you're working with a deity, then you will want to create something a little more permanent so that it helps you stay consistent. A shelf or a tabletop with a cloth runner, candles, a place for an offering bowl, a place for a glass, a nice wine glass. If you're offering something to the gatekeeper of a cemetery, or if your offering is taking place outdoors, I would recommend staying as simple as possible, especially because we are always doing our best to try and respect the space that we're in. Energetically, physically, we want to make sure that we are leaving no trace as much as we can, because humans do so much harm to the planet. Do your best, damn it. Some ideas of this are when I go to the park on my way, if I'm going to be doing an outdoor kind of offering, an outdoor ritual, an outdoor spell work session, I will go to the park, and on my way I will pick up some branches, small sticks, stones. I will pick flowers along the way. Just find kind of those biodegradable things that can be used to build a little circle or to build any kind of a space in order to do the rest of the work. So you can take your water or whatever and build a circle of sticks, place your flowers around it. Again, some really good ideas of outdoor altars are on my Pinterest page, which I guess I should link as well because I have a lot of ideas on there. But other people's Pinterest pages, and you can just look up ideas for outdoor altars and use your discernment, please. Because there are a lot of things that are not biodegradable that seem like they would be, and just be mindful of that. Since I've been referencing deity a lot, I'm going to go over deity offerings, even though I do not suggest that beginners rush out and start with deity work. It's complicated, it's hard to be respectful sometimes, and not intentionally. Sometimes you are just very you're lacking knowledge and you make mistakes, and that's all part of it, trust me. But I would suggest very strongly to start working with your local spirits, your house spirits, your gatekeepers and cemetery guardians, your beloved dead, long before you work with deity, because it is another step up of intensity. It is another step up of devotional things, devotional acts sometimes, and you just have to be sure that you are safe, you are shielded, you are grounded, and you know how to get rid of bad energy in your space should it come up, because there are a lot of things that pretend to be whomever you think you're speaking to that just are not. And yes, I would say that also goes for local spirits too, but it's far less likely, I think, and easier to discern, especially in the beginning. So, that being said, I know that most people, just like myself, probably will, because you want to have this connection to something bigger. You want to have a connection to the universe in whatever way that you perceive it. You want to have this purpose and be a little special, honestly. So I will give a few pointers, because I know the beginners will seek out deity to work with regardless, and just offer a few notes on some deity offerings, just in case. So number one, no, the gods are not mad at you for not having the nicest altar, or not having the best offerings, or forgetting a day or skipping a day. And that seems to be a really common topic that's brought up in beginner witch circles. Secondly, pagan deities are not going to behave the same as your Christian God, in the way that we are little humans and we pray and we never get an answer back, and it's this one-sided devotional act. So welcome to paganism, where you will probably get an answer back, and it is more of a two-way working relationship, a two-way communication, and that can be so extremely rewarding. So I understand why it is so alluring. Believe me, I have gotten so much out of my relationships with my gods that I will absolutely not tell you to never do that. I want that for you if that's what you want for you. I just want you to be safe, because there are consequences. And sometimes there are great consequences, especially going into something without the knowledge. So do your research, respect different cultures, and do not go absently into the presence of a deity thinking that you are particularly special and therefore safe. That being said, I would pay attention regardless to the insights, the inner voice, and communications of said deity. If things keep setting on fire when you make an offering, or your glass candle holders explode, or you've got this chain of bad luck every time that you give them something, I would say rethink your choices. I'm only the messenger. If you're determined to fuck around and find out, Godspeed. On a lighter note, I would stick to the basics when it comes to approaching any deity. We'll have another more in-depth video on that, and I think how to approach deity is probably a really good thing to learn, and I don't see a lot of content focused on that. This is going to go for any spirit relationship in general. Approach them, introduce yourself, speak out loud. It'll do wonders for your inner clarity. It'll help you learn to listen to things that are coming from something other than your internal voice, and just noticing the world around you, because synchronicity is a huge part of that communication. But protect yourself. Trust your instincts. They won't lead you wrong. All right, one last section, spirit guide offerings. Now, in my personal experience, spirit guide offerings are going to be more about you. And I think that's because spirit guides are here to help you, and only you, get through this journey of what we call life. So a lot of the offerings that I find are most effective and most appreciated to them is to take care of yourself. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of those things. Nourish yourself. Eat well, sleep well. Taking care of your body and mind is as much a gift to them as it is to you, because their ultimate want is for you to grow, and for you to learn, and for you to be better. And yes, they're there to help you through it, but they're there as more of a selfless extension of you. And again, that's my experience. But I would focus on doing those things. Take walks, meditation, eat well, sleep well, take care of your nourishment, and it will open the door to this great gratitude between the both of you that I have found in my own practice. I also keep a journal where I write letters to my primary guide. Again, not as often as I would like, but just expressing gratitude for him, and kind of just talking out what I am working on, and what has been going well and what has not been going well. And yes, we communicate in other ways, but that is the most reliable and concrete way that I have. And I just express my gratitude in there, and my love and my thankfulness for them being there. And often when I'm asking, what do you want? They say, go sit down and journal and write to me and think about me and talk about me and to me. And it's been really a good bonding experience. So that, my friends, is an overview of offerings. I hope this video was helpful to you, and that you will join us in future videos. This one is pretty long, and I hope you got something out of it. Again, this has just been an overview, but We will circle back around to some of the topics that were brought up here and go a little bit more in depth at a later time. But for now, be well and drink your coffee, sit outside, just soak up everything, the sunshine, the wind, and listen. Listen, listen. I'll see you the next time.